Choosing a roommate can be fraught with hidden dangers, transforming what should be a safe haven into a nightmare. The seemingly perfect candidate could conceal unsettling habits or even sinister secrets. From invading your privacy to creating an environment of fear and suspicion, a bad roommate can significantly disrupt your peace of mind. Now, let us take a slow walk down the dark, empty roads and find the roommate. Claire Williams smiled as she opened the door to her apartment, but it was not a warm smile. Her eyes glinted with something cold and calculating, a stark contrast to the welcoming facade she tried to present. "You must be Megan. Come on in," Claire said, her voice smooth and eerily calm. Claire led Megan through the entranceway to the living room, where she gestured for Megan to sit on the couch. "So, tell me a bit about yourself, Megan," Claire said, leaning forward with an almost predatory interest. Megan launched into her rehearsed speech, explaining her background, her job as a graphic designer, and her hobbies. Claire listened attentively, but there was something unnerving about her gaze, as if she were sizing Megan up, evaluating her for some unknown purpose. "Do you have any family around here?" Claire asked, her tone casual, but her eyes sharply focused. Megan nodded, smiling. "Yes, my parents live just a few hours away, and I have a brother in the city. We all try and get together when we can. How about you? Do you have family nearby?" Claire's expression shifted subtly, her smile becoming tighter. "Oh, my family's not really in the picture," she said dismissively. "I've been on my own for quite a while. It's made me pretty self-sufficient." Megan felt a heavy hand of sympathy, but sensed that pressing further would be unwelcome. "I noticed the rent's quite cheap for such a nice place. Why is that?" she asked, trying to change the subject. Claire's smile returned, but there was something off about it. "I prefer to keep it affordable to attract the right kind of people," she said smoothly. "Besides, I don't need much, just a bit of company now and then." The rate was indeed suspiciously low for the neighborhood, but Megan, in need of a place and charmed by the initial appearance of the apartment, decided to ignore the warning bells ringing in her head. Claire jumped up from the couch, catching Megan off guard. "Well, don't let me try and convince you all by myself. How about a tour?" Claire's smile appeared sweet at first glance, but slowly slid down to an empty stare. "If the rest of the apartment is anything like your living room, I'd love to," Megan admitted with a true tone of enjoyment. The apartment was spacious and well decorated. The living room was tastefully furnished with a large, plush couch and a coffee table littered with fashion magazines. A vintage chandelier hung from the ceiling, casting a soft, warm glow that did little to dispel the dark atmosphere. The walls were adorned with eclectic art pieces, each one more bizarre than the last. Claire led Megan down a narrow hallway. "This is your room," she said, opening a door to reveal a modest but comfortable bedroom. The bed was neatly made, with crisp white linens, and a small desk sat under the window, offering a view of the bustling street below. The room was functional, but the heavy drapes and dark wooden furniture gave it a somber feel. "You didn't have furniture, right?" Claire asked. Megan sat on the bed and took a look around, and pictured her own personal bedroom items making the distant room feel like home. "That's right. I've been living with my parents. It seemed like the best thing to do until I finished school, which just happened recently." Claire responded with nothing, and the tour abruptly moved on. "And this is my room," Claire continued, opening the door at the end of the hall. Claire's bedroom was a stark contrast to Megan's. It was lavishly decorated with rich fabrics and over-the-top furnishings. A grand four-poster bed dominated the space, and the walls were lined with shelves filled with an array of peculiar trinkets and books. The room felt almost theatrical, as if it were a stage set for a dark drama. They moved on to the kitchen, which was surprisingly modern. Stainless steel appliances gleamed under the bright overhead lights, and the countertops were spotless, almost sterile. The cabinets were filled with neatly organized spices and ingredients, hinting at Claire's meticulous nature. Despite its cleanliness, the kitchen felt cold and impersonal, lacking the warmth typically associated with the heart of a home. There was a faint odor of bleach in the air. The bathroom was next. It was spacious, with a large clawfoot tub and a vanity lined with various beauty products. The tiles were a pristine white, but the room felt more like a clinical space than a place of relaxation. They returned to the living room, where Claire remained standing next to the couch, which caused Megan to feel uncomfortable if she were to sit down. "So, do you want to be my roommate?" Claire asks with a soft, sweet voice. Megan looked around, and even with a sinking feeling, smiled back at her and nodded her head. Claire attempted a smile at the news. The day Megan moved in was bright and cheerful, a stark contrast to the darkness that would soon envelop her life. She unpacked her belongings, arranging her things in the new space with a sense of optimism. Claire was helpful and friendly, but there was always an undercurrent of something sinister in her actions, a subtle hint of malice that Megan couldn't quite put her finger on. It didn't take long for Megan to realize something wasn't right. In the following days, Megan began to notice Claire's peculiar habits. Claire never used her phone, not even to make a call or send a text. Whenever Megan asked about it, Claire would laugh and say she preferred face-to-face communication, but her laughter was cold and mocking. One evening, Megan decided to invite her friend Jenna over for dinner, hoping to break the growing tension in the apartment. Jenna was thrilled to see the new place and meet Claire, but Claire's reaction was anything but friendly. She greeted Jenna with a forced politeness, her eyes flashing with anger and disdain. Throughout the evening, Claire's presence was oppressive, and she spent most of the time in her room, emerging only to make awkward and unsettling small talk before retreating again. "I'm sorry about Claire," Megan said to Jenna after Claire had disappeared once more. "She's usually much friendlier." Jenna shrugged, unconcerned. "Maybe she's just having a bad day. The apartment is amazing, though. You're really lucky, and I still can't get over the price." Despite Jenna's reassurance, Megan couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night, as she lay in bed, she heard a soft, almost imperceptible footsteps outside her door. She sat up, straining to hear, but the sound stopped abruptly. Dismissing it as her imagination, Megan eventually fell into an uneasy sleep. Days turned into weeks, and Claire's behavior grew increasingly bizarre and menacing. She still never used her phone, rarely left the apartment, and mostly hid in her room. When Megan asked about it, Claire would laugh, but the laughter was devoid of humor, tinged with a mocking cruelty. "I prefer to live in the moment. My moments," Claire said, her eyes shimmering with malice. Determined to ease the tension, Megan invited her best friend from back home, Lisa, over for a movie night. She informed Claire first to not have the same outcome as the first visit with Jenna. Lisa was excited to see the new apartment and catch up. As soon as Lisa arrived, Claire's demeanor changed. She greeted Lisa with a strained smile, her eyes cold and unfriendly. Throughout the evening, Claire hovered around them, making awkward and unsettling comments. "So, Lisa, how do you know Megan?" Claire asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Oh, we've been friends since elementary school, Lisa replied, smiling warmly. It's great to finally see Megan's new place. She's told me so much about it. Claire's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. I bet she has. It's nice to have friends over, but I prefer quiet. Too much noise can be disturbing. Lisa glanced at Megan, who gave a tender yet nervous smile, though she felt a knot of anxiety forming in her stomach. As the night went on, Claire's behavior became more erratic. She would stand silently behind the couch, watching them with an intensity that made Lisa uncomfortable. At one point, she disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a tray of drinks. I made some tea, Claire said, her voice soft. It's a special blend. Helps with relaxation. Megan hesitated, noticing a strange look in Claire's eyes. Thanks, but we're good with what we have, she said quickly. Claire's expression darkened, but she forced another smile. Oh, of course. If you need anything, just let me know. The rest of the evening was filled with an oppressive tension. It became so bad that Lisa made excuses to leave early, sensing the unease in the apartment. I'll see you later, Megan. Call me if you need anything. I mean anything, she said, giving her friend a meaningful look. After Lisa left, Claire turned to Megan, her eyes flashing with anger. I thought we agreed no guests without informing each other first, she said, her voice low and menacing. I'm sorry, do you not remember us talking about this last week? We stood in the kitchen, and you said you were fine with it, Megan blurted out. Claire took a step closer, her eyes boring into Megan's. It's my home too, Megan. Remember that. I don't like surprises, especially when it comes from people I don't know. The incident left Megan feeling uneasy, but she tried to brush it off. That night, the strange noises returned, louder this time. She heard whispering, though she couldn't make out the words, and the sound of something dragging across the floor. She got up to investigate, but the noises stopped as soon as she opened her door. As the days passed, the strange occurrences increased. Megan would catch a glimpse of Claire standing in the hallway, staring at the walls as if looking for something. When confronted, Claire would just smile, a cold, chilling smile that never reached her eyes. Just thinking, she would say cryptically. One night, Megan woke to find a foul smell permeating the apartment. It was a putrid, decaying odor that made her gag. She rushed to open windows and spray air freshener, but the smell lingered. Determined to find the source, she began searching the apartment. She checked the kitchen, the bathroom, even behind the furniture, but found nothing that could explain the stench. Finally, she ventured into Claire's room. The smell grew stronger as she approached the closet door. She tried the handle, but it was locked. Frustrated and scared, Megan confronted Claire the next morning. Do you smell that? It's horrible. And your closet's locked. What's in there, Claire? Claire's face darkened. It's just some old clothes and things. I don't use anymore. The smell must be coming from somewhere else. Don't worry about it. But Megan couldn't shake the feeling that Claire was lying. The smell would come and go, always strongest at night. The once welcoming apartment now felt like a prison, and Megan's sense of dread grew with each passing day. Megan's unease grew into outright fear as Claire's behavior became more erratic and menacing. Claire would disappear for hours, returning with no explanation of where she had been. She started to leave strange, cryptic notes around the apartment, messages that seemed to be written in a hurry. Stay away from my room, read one note pinned to Megan's door. Another simply said, don't trust anyone. Megan's sleep was plagued by nightmares. She would dream of Claire standing over her bed, whispering unintelligible words, her eyes dark and hollow. The smell in the apartment grew stronger, now almost constant, a sickening reminder that something was terribly wrong. One particularly horrifying nightmare left Megan trembling. She found herself standing in the dimly lit hallway of the apartment. Claire was there, dragging a large, blood-soaked sheet behind her. The sheet had a human shape to it, with blood trailing along the floor in a gruesome path. Megan watched in horror as Claire's ghostly form moved silently, her face twisted in a sinister smile. Megan tried to scream, but no sound came out. She could only watch, paralyzed, as Claire disappeared into the darkness, leaving the bloody trail behind. Megan woke up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. The vividness of the nightmare made it feel more like a memory than a dream, and she couldn't shake the image from her mind. Another night, Megan found herself in another nightmare, trapped inside Claire's locked closet. It was dark and suffocating, the air thick with the stench of rot. As she fumbled for a way out, she felt cold, slimy walls closing around her. She could hear faint, eerie whispers and the distant, agonized screams of unseen victims. Panicking, Megan stumbled deeper into the closet, only to find it had turned into a labyrinth, house of horrors. The walls dripped with blood, and grotesque, shadowy figures reached out to her, their faces contorted in eternal torment. She ran blindly, trying to escape, but the corridor seemed endless, filled with horrifying visions of pain and death. Just as she felt she could take no more, she turned a corner and came face to face with Claire. Claire's eyes glowed with a malevolent light. Her smile was a grotesque parody of joy. "Welcome to my world," Claire hissed, her voice echoing with a chilling resonance. Megan woke up screaming, her heart pounding and her body drenched in sweat. The nightmare was so vivid, so terrifying, that she could almost still feel the cold, clammy walls of the closet against her skin. Desperate for answers, Megan decided to do some investigating of her own. She waited until Claire was out, then started searching the apartment. She found nothing unusual until she reached Claire's bedroom. The locked closet door loomed ominously, and Megan's heart pounded as she approached it. She tried the handle, but it was firmly locked. Frustrated, she searched the room for a key, but found nothing. As she was about to give up, she noticed a loose floorboard near the bed. With a surge of adrenaline, she pried it open, revealing a small key hidden beneath. Her hands shook as she picked it up, feeling the cold metal against her skin. Taking a deep breath, Megan approached the closet and inserted the key. The lock clicked open, and she slowly swung the door ajar. The smell hit her first, a wave of putrid decay that made her retch. Steeling herself, she pushed the door open further and gasped in horror. Inside the closet was Claire's decomposing body, her face frozen in a grimace of terror. Megan stumbled back, her mind reeling. How was this possible? She had been living with Claire, talking to her, seeing her every day. But the body in the closet was unmistakably Claire. As she stood there, paralyzed with shock, she felt a cold presence behind her. She turned slowly, and there stood Claire, her eyes dark, empty voids, and her mouth twisted in a sinister smile. "Now you know," Claire said, her voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "You shouldn't have opened the closet." Megan's breath came in short, panicked gasps as she faced Claire. The room seemed to close in around her, the air thick with the stench of decay and the weight of unspoken horrors. Claire's ghostly form flickered, her face a grotesque mask of rage and sorrow. What are you? Megan whispered, her voice trembling. I'm what remains, Claire replied, her voice a chilling echo. I was murdered weeks ago by another who wanted to be my roommate. She wrapped me in a sheet and dragged me to the closet where she left me to rot. But my spirit couldn't rest. Megan's mind raced, trying to comprehend the impossible. But I've been talking to you, living with you. How can you be dead? Claire smiled, a ghastly, hollow expression. You've been interacting with my spirit, my essence. I've been trapped here, bound to this place. And now, because of you, I'm being forced to leave. Tears streamed down Megan's face as the reality of her situation sank in. She had been living with a ghost, a restless spirit unable to move on. The strange behavior, the cryptic notes, the awful smell. It all made sense now. Claire had been trying to maintain her hold on the living world. What do you want from me? Megan asked, her voice barely audible. I want revenge, Claire hissed, her eyes flaring with fury. I was robbed of my life, and now that you've found my body, I can't stay here. But before I go, I'll make sure you suffer. I'll make sure you know my pain. Megan's fear turned to horror as Claire advanced on her, the air growing colder with every step. Why me? What did I do? Megan stammered, trying to back away. It's not just about you, Claire sneered. I need someone to share in my suffering, to understand the depths of my torment. I need someone to take my place, to feel the agony I endured. Megan felt a wave of nausea as she realized the full extent of Claire's plan. You want to trap me here? Like you're trapped? Yes, Claire hissed, her eyes gleaming with pure evil. I want you to feel every moment of pain, every second of hopelessness. And when you're finally broken, I'll move on, and you'll take my place in this nightmare. Megan's heart pounded as she realized the full extent of Claire's fury. The air grew colder, and a sinister wind whipped through the apartment, slamming doors and rattling windows. Claire's form flickered with a dark, malevolent energy, her eyes burning with rage. You think you could just leave? Claire said, her voice nothing but pain. You've ruined everything. Now you'll take my place. Megan's survival instincts kicked in. She backed away slowly, her eyes darting around the room for any possible escape. Claire lunged at her, but Megan dodged, knocking over a lamp in the process. The apartment seemed to come alive with Claire's fury, objects flying through the air and crashing against the walls. Desperate, Megan ran into the kitchen, grabbing a large knife from the countertop. She turned just in time to see Claire materialize in front of her, her face twisted in a mask of hatred. You can't hide from me, Claire screamed, her voice shaking the very foundations of the apartment. Megan swung the knife, and to her surprise, it made contact with Claire, who let a howl of rage and pain. Claire staggered back, clutching her arm where the knife had struck. You think that will stop me? You're mine now. With no other options, Megan made a break for the front door, but an invisible force slammed it shut before she could reach it. Claire appeared behind her, grabbing her by the hair and throwing her across the room. Megan hit the wall with a painful thud, the knife skittering out of her grasp. Gasping for breath, Megan crawled towards the living room, her vision blurred with tears and pain. Claire floated above her, a dark shadow looming closer. You will join me in this nightmare, Megan, Claire hissed. Forever! Summoning all her strength, Megan reached for a heavy candlestick on the coffee table and swung it at Claire. The candlestick connected with a sickening thud, and Claire let out a blood-curdling scream. The force of the blow sent Claire reeling backward, crashing into the bookshelf. Thinking quickly, Megan grabbed the knife again and lunged at Claire, stabbing her in the chest. Claire's eyes widened in shock and fury as she let out a final, guttural scream. The apartment shook violently, and a blinding light filled the room. Megan was thrown back, hitting the floor hard. When she opened her eyes, Claire was gone, and the apartment was eerily silent. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, and the putrid smell had vanished. Megan lay there for a moment, catching her breath, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. Slowly, she got to her feet, surveying the wreckage of the apartment. She knew she shouldn't stay here any longer. With trembling hands, she glanced around nervously, as if expecting Claire to reappear at any moment. As she stepped out of the apartment and into the bright sunlight, Megan felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had faced the unimaginable horrors and barely made it out alive.